obviously Donald Trump is apparently obsessed with the idea of pardons, but will he pardon himself? Could he pardon himself? Is it actually legal? It turns out it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to him, you'll be shocked to find out that he thinks it is. He tweeted way back in 2018, like 3 months after he found out about presidential pardons, as has been stated by numerous legal scholars, I have the absolute right to pardon myself. But why would I do that when I've done nothing wrong? In the meantime, the never-ending witch hunt led by 13 very capital angry and capital conflicted Democrats and others continues into the midterms. So why would you tweet that if you've done nothing wrong? That's really weird. Like that is an admission, I think. And we've all sort of glossed over it, but he's been committed to the idea for several years now that if he wanted to, he could pardon himself. And in the theory, at least, you can pardon people not just for things they've already been investigated for or convicted of, but theoretically, preemptively. You can actually do that. The more interesting question is, could he do it himself? And we're gonna get to that. This is just a really funny quote I just gotta give you. One former official said that Trump was so fascinated by his pardon powers that senior level officials would sometimes bring up their research on the matter just to get Trump off another subject they wanted to steer away from.
Oh my God.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. That like they know, like all that is I don't have my keys, but that's all it is. It's just dangling keys for a dog. That's what that is.
I can't. I'm so glad it's theoretically so close to over that this is just gonna go away. Okay, so I want to go back to that tweet. That tweet, I disagree that it's necessarily, everything he does is an admission that he has done something wrong. It's very obvious, but I think that the way to justify this tweet is to say like, I didn't do anything wrong, but even if your witch hunt renders me convicted, it's not gonna work anyway because I have more power, so sorry. And that resonates with his base, whatever. But it is absolutely true and everyone knows it. And even the people that pretend they don't notice it understands that Trump, if you just tell him how powerful he is, then that's the end of the discussion. He's happy again. And that's tracking with all the reporting we're seeing about his utter loss in the election, is that people are trying to keep him from realizing that. And it seems like they've done a pretty good job. And there have been reports that if you say Biden, you get fired, and he freaks out, so they just don't say it.
Yeah. Now, as to the legality, which I think is substantive, it's not the most fun part of this, but it's the most important part. I'm gonna jump ahead just a little bit, Brandon. The Justice Department looked at the question in the Nixon era and concluded it wasn't within the president's power to pardon himself. Quote, under the fundamental rule that no one may be a judge in his own case, the president cannot pardon himself, the Office of Legal Counsel wrote back in August 1974. And there's been some stuff out of the Supreme Court recently that theoretically, having to do with some of the challenges he's already faced, indicates that they might agree with that. But I think it's an indication of that we are moving into uncharted really waters, at least by the ultimate judge, which would be the Supreme Court weighing on this, which they have not through the history of the United States. That I've had guests on that have said, no, he totally can just say, I'm free and clear of anything coming from the federal government. And I had David K. Johnston on yesterday who was like, no, you obviously can't do that, it's settled. It's settled in the Justice Department as of 50 years ago, and maybe the Supreme Court wouldn't allow it because that does seem insane. But we have an insane Supreme Court, and so I don't know. Maybe we'll end up finding out. The first step would be him pardoning himself, and that would happen sometime in the next 60 days or so.
But there is an extra little wrinkle to the process itself, John, and that is Trump using litigation as a way to buy time until he dies. And that's what's happened. And if you look at all his lawsuits surrounding voter impropriety and fraud, like he is right at that line because he has no actual case. So there is no actual case that will go into litigation. He needs to find a case that won't be dismissed. If you look at all the analyses of what he's putting before courts, he is on that line where most of it is so ridiculous, it's been dismissed. And his solution isn't to have it accepted, and he knows it won't go through and be found in his favor in courts. He just needs to get in that litigation, and he'll stay there. And he has a never-ending supply of funds to pay for his legal support because he is taking the first $8,000 of every donation to his PAC and lining his own pockets. That's what's happening. That is the machine. That's how he has functioned forever. That's what we're experiencing here. That's what we'll experience in pardons. That's what we're experiencing in the electoral process. And that's what everyone who's ever done, been contracted by him to build a building or give him a loan. That's what they've all experienced. His way of tying things up in court to buy himself time and then using grift to fund everything from legal fees to his extravagant lifestyle.
Yeah. All the incentives are set up for him to do the worst things that benefit himself.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.